Hello and welcome to Views on News. I'm Jawad Tehami, caretaker Prime Minister Zia-ul-Haq has expressed unwavering commitment to combat religious discrimination and intolerance. He has also asserted that the government will ensure the protection of the lives and the properties of the minorities. Reflecting upon his recent visit to Jalawala, the caretaker Prime Minister during the cabinet meeting also said that the perpetrators of such heinous acts and crimes such as Jalawala incident will be held accountable. The cabinet has also at the same time directed the concerned officials to organize an interfaith conference next week to foster greater religious tolerance in the country, and this conference will bring scholars from diverse religions and schools of thought. Now, this comes after a violent mob vandalized and ransacked more than 80 homes and 19 churches of the Christian community in Jalawala. Now, we will be discussing as to what the steps and the measures the government took in the wake of this particular gruesome incident, and what else is required to promote and foster greater interfaith harmony. What sort of a role educational institutions, ulama, religious scholars, as well as media can and should play in this regard. In other news, Chief of Army Staff General Syed Asim Munir has emphasized, let me quote him, that terrorists, their affiliates and abettors working on the behest of hostile agenda to destabilize Pakistan will be hunted down until their surrender to the state of Pakistan, unquote. Now, the army chief was interacting with the soldiers and the officers who have been deployed in Sherwangi area near Asman Manza in South Waziristan, where earlier 6 soldiers embraced martyrdom while fighting gallantly against the terrorists. We'll be taking these two particular topics up for discussion in the show. For the first, we are honored to have been joined in the studio by Professor Dr. Mustafeez Ahmad Alvi. He is a religious scholar, formerly served Dean Faculty of Social Sciences at Namal, also specializes in comparative religion, comparative philosophy and socio-political thought. Dr. Alvi, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. We really appreciate that. In the studio, we're also honored to have been joined by Dr. Shaheer Ellahi. He's a social scientist. Dr. Ellahi, thank you very much for your time, also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Let me begin the discussion with you, Dr. Alvi. Now, the kind of gruesome incident that took place in Jalawala, a certain particular religious minority targeted by a violent mob, the kind of steps the authorities in Pakistan have taken in the wake of that, especially restoring and rehabilitating the damaged churches. How do you see that, and what sort of a message do you think this restoration and rehabilitation of the churches of religious minority send out?
Thank you, Tehami sir. It's very important to know about the fact that our society is gradually becoming violent, and taking the front line, our Prime Minister has declared it very clearly, and the forces chief has come to front, that we have to purgate and purify our society regarding this desecration and gruesome activities. We will have to focus about and upon the basic factors which are creating this mindset that becomes intolerant, that becomes an emotional group having no rationale at any cost. So we have to focus upon this mindset, how to change this. Secondly, a Muslim defines himself as a person who has a message of peace, Islam being the peace in letter and spirit. So a Muslim should know the teachings. As we see the other religions as well, all religions always speak about, and they bring up their followers in an environment that where tolerance is talk of the town, and tolerant is the behavior and attitude where the followers should be following. Unfortunately, our education system, our cultural mores are somewhat deviating this aspect of religious teachings. Now, I think the today's e-media and social media also should take care of it, and the basic problem that is being created today is an emotional appetite that is increasing day by day. So we have to look at the sense of approval and sense of this emotional emotional unrest increasing. So we'll have to have a psychopathy and psychotherapy for the society that should be coming all along from the institutions government is running, and from the leadership, the political leadership, the government officials, the bureaucracy and the religious leaders. All will have to put their foot on ground in the matter, and we all should have a joint effort for it, and this can be managed and organized by the leaders like Prime Minister Kakar has declared it. So this extremism and hate speech should be condemned, and it should be treated through a scientific analysis by knowing that what are the factors which are creating this phenomena in the whole society.
So what are the prime factors? What's your understanding regarding that? In this particular incident, we saw the sanctity of the mosque, the place of worship, and the tools which are provided to them to send out the call for prayer and to send out the message of peace, love, and patience, and tolerance, empathy, and compassion was misused. So how do you think the common man is going to differentiate what sort of a message is being relayed to him through a place of worship, especially a mosque?
I think no religion never teaches this kind of behavior. What brings to front is the ulterior motives of some groups or individuals who have no even awareness about religion and its teachings, and they actually have some heinous mindset and motives behind them, and they use, what they use is the emotional attachment of any religious follower with the religion. And it's quite natural that we, being Muslims and others religions, they all have their emotional attachment with the religion, but all religions also teach a rationalist approach as well. So we must be thinking about this very factor, first of all, that who are the individuals or groups in the community. They use always this emotional blackmailing, and they come up with a mob who has been already charged with emotions, and they always actually go to the emotional narratives and hate speeches. Secondly, I think we'll have to train the religious leaders and imams of the mosques and other worships, and they should be giving the lessons on tolerance and mutual harmony and mutual cooperation, and they should be quoting their own religious books, which are always speaking against this intolerance and against this extremist mindset. So these both ways can cater for the factors which are creating this.
Right. Dr. Ellahi, what's your understanding of imparting more training to the religious scholars so that they interpret the true message of Islam in particular and relay that to the general public? And what about the regulation? How about regulating this institution in particular in order to promote interfaith harmony and tolerance in the society?
It is extremely important. First of all, when we say interfaith tolerance, the word tolerance itself has somehow deep down negative connotation. We must use the word interfaith acceptance, which is a greater word. It has greater peace and meaning and depth to it. On the other hand, while consolidating, while going through all the different texts available, the biblical and non-biblical, requires some sort of intelligentsia, rationality, reasoning to bring, not through cherry picking, but by bringing people together, heads together in a way that we may bring solidarity, cohesion for the society, for the community. This is where the academia must come up front. along with what have been said by the caretaker Prime Minister and the COAS, that we should fight it on all grounds, all front lines. It means that most of our community somehow are going to schools or colleges or mosques or madaris or churches or temples, and above all, universities. This is where we need to create the atmosphere of research towards interfaith. We have less number of scholars bringing textbooks or bringing books or evidence-based research where we can fight this menace, this grotesque approach towards killing humans over the name of the belief. That is exactly why, if we see subcontinent, we have this very long structural historical context, and we have achieved coexistence with peace, harmony, interfaith, and above all intrafaith. That is exactly why when it comes to linguistics, we should all be speaking language which is not just subject to independent interpretation, individual interpretation. It should be very communal, social, solid, composed, well dedicated. Not that everyone may create a context on its own out of it. That is exactly why we must have scholars, we must have religious scholars, we must have professors, PhDs, promoting dedicatedly through this Lang structure, an integral element of the society, how to live as humans. The cornerstone of all the biblical texts available in the world right now. For example, we have lived in subcontinent as Muslims for over a century. We have produced, we have protected, we have sheltered, and we have been sheltered by all of them as well. For example, Baba Guru Nanak said once, Alif Allah noor upaya kudrat ke sab bande, ek noor se sab jak upja ko bhale ko mande. We all are made up of one light, that one spirit. We all feel empty stomach, hungry, thirsty. End of the day, we all are in need of these basic needs. So that is exactly why we have been appreciating each other's. Why? Because we have been taking this Lang and above all intelligent, reasonable structure from each other. That's what Sanatan Dharam said. Ekyum Brahma Devta Naste Nena Naste Kanchan. Brahma is one. There is only one truth. That's what Islam says. Inna Allahu ala kulli shayin qadir. He is the one who controls everything and gives peace, tolerance, food, and water to the thirsty. So what I mean to say is that combining all these texts, and it's such a dilemma in the modern age, that if I go to a bookstore in Pakistan, there is yet to see a compendium, a historical textbook, a chronology-based book, which may state that we all are one somehow, we complete each other. The irony is, which Dr. Alvi was putting very rightly, there is this social psychopathy, psychotreatment required whereat we think that we have been incompleted by making a temple or a church around us. No, it completes each other. That's how we live each other. It khadke dukkad vajje tatta hove chulla aan fakir khaka jaman razi hove bulla. Scholars, saints, ulamas, pandits, sadhu, sant, fakir, they all have created this sense, this feeling of what? That we all are one, coming from one, the creator is one, the shapes and shades are different. So what I mean to say, in a nutshell, bringing a book or a curriculum or a text in a manner that may show all shades of the biblical text, Quranic and other texts, and bringing people together by giving all these references. When I go through references, when I go through translation, there is a huge difference. So we must keep an eye on these departments. For example, translation studies, anthropology, sociology, psychology. That is exactly why social sciences is a must. Economic factor is one, the way Dr. Alvi was putting. Political factor is another. But poverty is not the ultimate source of intolerance. We have been poor, We have been living like this, but we have been sharing the half piece of our bread with the neighbors. So somehow something have went wrong crazily, and we need to fix it at the intelligentsia level first of all.
Right, historically speaking, could you bring in examples from history whenever Muslims have ruled around the world? What sort of a treatment of the Muslim rulers was primarily towards the minorities?
Right from Mecca, and then the incidents of Karbala, and then the fall of Jerusalem, and when the Jerusalem was taken back. You see the agreement that Muslims made is so beautiful. Is still at the pinnacle, the epitome of humanity, giving access to the people who we have won, not through sword, through morality. And on the other hand, opening your saints' doors, your house doors, your mosques to other. That is exactly why poets emerged in a big number. Because they used to go to every doorstep, they used to sit in the streets, we used to have a beautiful culture every evening. We have lost the culture of these tea-based evenings, lassi-based evenings, where we used to discuss all these things. We have lost the culture of sitting with grandparents. My grandmother always narrated me story about the partition of Pakistan and India in a beautiful manner. It showed interfaith. They still we cry for that longing, that we all are one, we have been one. So this is what the beauty is, be it the Gurdwara or the Mandir or the Masjid, and you may take any other name in any belief system. This is what is required historically. We have number of evidences, we have references, we have books. We need to revamp, relive them. The irony is that most of the scholars are only thinking about the new world order based political structure research. This won't help. We need to go deep, skin deep, in order to understand what is happening within my brain when I am creating a mob, when I am instilling violence, when I am asking people to attack something, which is just like mine. Same bricks, same stones, same color, same clothes, texture, hair texture, eye color, even then killing them. So insaan to rehne do, and let us be humans at least.
Right.
So this is the beauty, that we need to compile them together in a manner and make a compendium out of it, and this should be taught right from the early
grassroots.
college level. This is where our brain starts to receive the pregnancy seeds of the maturity, right? And then from there on, you build on that,
Right.
make a structure.
Your point is well taken. We are joined by another participant on the phone line, Professor Dr. Muhammad Zia-ul-Haq. He is Director General at Islamic Research Institute and Professor of Sharia and Islamic Law at the International Islamic University. Formerly has served as the Dean at the department as well. Dr. Zia-ul-Haq, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on Views on News tonight. Really appreciate that. Talking about the treatment towards religious minorities, how the treatment was meted out when we specifically talk about the times of Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, himself.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much for this intervention. You know, as a Muslim, we believe that the conduct of the Prophet ﷺ is exemplary for all of Muslims in individual and collective conduct of our matters at present. So same is the situation in dealing with the non-Muslim citizens of an Islamic state. There are many instances in which we find the exemplary conduct of the Prophet ﷺ guiding us today, how we can have our attitude and behavior with the non-Muslims living in our society. And the prime example of that is Misake Medina and the pact of peace with the Christians of Najran, and then the instructions regarding Ahle Kitab part of their recognition in Islamic faith and examples that we can find in the formative period of Islam. There are various dimensions of Muslims and non-Muslim relations, and we have to understand that in first 3 centuries of Islam, the majority of the population of the Islamic State was of non-Muslims who were allowed to practice their faith freely without any interference from the state. On the other hand, we find examples that state was helping these communities to practice their faith and helping their holy sites and provide respect to their holy sites. And examples are in front of us that the Christians of Najran, they were allowed to conduct their worship in the mosque of Nabawi in presence of the Prophet, peace be upon him. So these are the examples. And as Muslims, we find a complete doctrine. I think it may not be in any other religion, the comprehensive guidelines and teachings for the regulation of the conduct of Muslims towards the non-Muslims as we found these teachings in Islam. The verses of Quran, clear-cut verses of Islam. The sayings of the Prophet, peace be upon him, particularly his address, khutbah, Hajjatul Wada, and the rulings that have been derived by the classical Muslim groups about that. All these are supporting that Muslims and non-Muslims, particularly Ahl Kitab, they can live peacefully, they can live in coexistence, they can live in respect in any state such as Pakistan. So the attitude and the relationship between between Muslims and non-Muslims must be exemplary in Pakistan. This has enshrined in the Constitution of Pakistan. The provisions of the Constitution, the legal framework of Pakistan are clearly indicating that Pakistani Muslims and Pakistani non-Muslims, they will live together. Here I would like to draw another important, I would like to draw the attention about another very important document, that is Tehami Pakistan. Tehami Pakistan is the national narrative of Islamic Republic of Pakistan, and that narrative is about the conduct of Muslims in the present situation that we are facing. Tehami Pakistan is a unanimous fatwa of around 6,000 ulama of Pakistan, and in that fatwa, Pakistani religious leadership, along with the international Muslim religious leadership, they have categorically declared that all the rights that Muslims are enjoying in Pakistan are the rights of non-Muslims. As Muslims can go to their worship places freely, similarly, the non-Muslims can go to their worship places and they can freely exercise their worship. They can enjoy with their religious festivals. They can enjoy with their religious ceremonies. And I would like to mention here, it is very important that in Quran there is a particular verse that is mentioning permission for jihad on the basis of the grounds to protect the religious places. And clearly in that verse, even churches and synagogues are mentioned. So the act of attacking any church that we have seen in Jawad is clearly repugnant to the teachings of Islam, repugnant to the verses of the Quran, repugnant to the conduct of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. It is clear-cut violation of the Constitution of Pakistan, the legal framework of Pakistan, and several other Muslim declarations. Actually, this incident is the outcome of the reactionary mindset that unfortunately have been created in Pakistan, and this reactionary mindset and the the reactionary attitude has created new challenges for us in the present scenario. However, here I would like to mention that the cold reaction of the Pakistani nation on this incident is not negative. Particularly, I would like to mention here the mainstream Islamic parties, that their reaction is very positive when some Muslim extremists on the pretext of religious honor was trying to destroy.
Well taken, Professor Dr. Muhammad Zia-ul-Haq, joining us on the phone line, Director General Islamic Research Institute. Thank you very much for taking time out for Views on News tonight. Really appreciate that. Now, Dr. Alvi, let's talk about the times of Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself. What sort of treatment the minorities used to get at that time?
When we see in history, Islamic history, that was archetypal Islamic state founded by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we see that it was based upon pacts and agreements and different conventions. You see Baya Aqba, Ula, Saniya and Salisa, and we see Medina Pact as has been already referred to. And we see Sulh Hudaybiyah and Wafd Najran, Hijrat to Habasha and so on and so forth. We have so many examples that we are, but what is being taught today? The religious communities are not teaching to their followers the true religious thought. We can never see the last sermon of Jesus Christ to be focused on. We will never see the last sermon of the Holy Prophet Muhammad Khutbah Hajjatul Wada being quoted again and again. What we highlight is that the crusades we will be always focusing. The jihad phenomena will be focusing. What we should be focusing upon is that we should, what contribution of religion has been to build up a civilization. What contribution of any religion has been always building a culture of harmony and culture of tolerance. But unfortunately, books are speaking aloud, but we are speaking low about these contributions. So what should be focused by religious leaders is that how to live together, how to civilize, how to manage the social affairs. The basic question comes to my mind is that we are facing an emotional intelligence mismanagement crisis. And the whole society, whether they belong to any religion or any segment of society, we see this extremism in politics as well. We see this the gruesome activities, even last May we have faced. So this is what our society is reflecting. So I think the basic question for today is that our emotional intelligence should be managed rightly.
So how can it be done? Can it be done through the educational institutions?
I'm coming to the point. Now, it will start from the very brought up phenomena that is within family system. We have some cultural mores newly introduced to our society, and they are actually dispersing and disintegrating the family system. And parents, as Dr. Shaheer has already quoted, the parents comes first, that they should realize their duty, what kind of child they are giving to the society, what kind of individual they are producing. Secondly, yes, it comes to the neighborhood area where the panchayats, where the elders of the society, they should be thinking about the street child and street children. We have more than 65% of population is youth, so we will have to address them. Thirdly comes the role of these education schools. You know, a man is brought up actually as a human being during his or her age of teen bracket, teenagers. So that area, that age group should be focused. Fourthly, I will say that the books have been already wiped out. Now we are unfortunately becoming a bookless society, and this bookless society will go to next time in a situation where no one is to lead. And fifthly, I should focus upon we have no single teacher, we have multiple sources of teaching.
Wow.
On one side, we have informal education coming at I think almost 75% of our education is coming informally, and that formal education is being contributed by multiple sources. For example, I must say about the e-media and social media as well. It must be regulated somewhere. The prime time of evenings, you can see the talk shows, what they are actually debating. They should have dialogue rather than having debates. And they should promote peace narrative rather than hate speeches. So this again comes a role of these media, because today's society and today's age, this is media age. So media should play a responsible role, and the media houses, the anchor persons, and the media men should be realizing their responsibility. They have at their mercy the millions of minds, so they will have to have this management of emotion.
Right. I'll be taking your detailed view regarding the collaboration between the education institutions, the religious ulama, as well as the kind of role media has got to play in this particular regard. For now, I'm joined by Brigadier Retired Waqar Hassan, Senior Analyst, to discuss the statement just that has come forth by Chief of Army Staff, General Sayyid Asim Munir. Brigadier Waqar, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on Views on News tonight. Really appreciate that. We've seen back-to-back incidents of terrorist attacks being carried out by some banned outfits, mostly operating from the Afghan soil. Now, our soldiers and officers continuously engaged in fighting this particular menace. We've seen in South Waziristan, also 6 soldiers embraced martyrdom. Now, these sacrifices, what sort of message does this particular phenomenon send out to those terrorists?
Thank you for having me. I think the current policy is very clear. By the current Army Chief Asim Munir, when he came, I think he very clearly stated that there is zero tolerance, and should be for any, I think, state. There should be zero tolerance for terrorism. So there was, I think, multi-dimensional approach adopted. We've seen in Balochistan some of the sub-nationalist group laying down their arms and joining the mainstream. Of course, in the case there are criminals, they'll be charged, but by and large, in case youth is bewildered, so they can be mainstream. Same strategy applies in, I think, KP, but here you are fighting two very, I would say, hardened terrorist outfits, basically the TTP and Daesh, ISIS. So in their case, I think the strategy is clear. The military is now trying to root out whatever is left here. And they also have, I think, now pressure coming from Afghanistan, despite that there are safe havens there. At least the leadership has acknowledged that any attack from Afghan soil will not be taken as jihad and be basically a war against Afghanistan, and they have assured. So maybe because of, I think, political and diplomatic pressure put on by Pakistan, and Pakistan also highlighted that in case it doesn't stop, then we have the right to go and strike across. So it means that there are remnants which will probably keep sneaking and attacking security forces, and the army and the intelligence, law enforcement agencies have to fight it out. So I think that is clear. And you've seen some of their top guns like Ghaffari, they were taken out in Kunnar. Then I think in Paktika also, and some of them in KP as well as in Balochistan, like, there was a big terrorist outfit in Zob which was taken out. So all told, I think the strategy is clear, and why Chief has gone to the front line is to assure soldiers and officers who are fighting, despite a lot of flag comes from some of the trolls some heartless trolls. Despite that, these are the officers and Jawans who are basically fighting in harsh terrain, and that's how we are sleeping comfortably in our home. So I think strategy is clear, and the message is very clear.
Right.
There is no let-in, and it will be till the last vestige of terrorism is rooted out. And even they have been, I think, fatwas from our ulama, they've been called as the dogs of hell. So I think that is how we look at them.
Right, Brigadier Waqar, when we talk about, you already also mentioned the announcement by the Supreme Leader of the interim Afghan authorities regarding the difference between jihad and war. So if even after that particular announcement by the Supreme Leader of the interim Afghan authorities, such type of terrorist acts continue to happen, in which the Afghan nationals and the Afghan soil is involved. So what sort of strategy do you think authorities in Pakistan should be adopting in order to engage with the interim Afghan authorities to impress upon them to fulfill their commitment to the international community, especially of not allowing the Afghan soil to be used for the terrorist activities?
I think there are 4 or 5 dimensions of it. First, it is diplomatic one. There are military engagements, intelligence sharing, and then some of the proofs were, I think, put forward very straight to the Afghan leadership, including their Foreign Office, their Interior Ministry, and Ministry of Defense, and I'm sure to their the head of the Afghan interim government. And I think they have been straightforward, cleared the message that enough is enough. And so this is one. For then there is the economic tool which Pakistan has never employed. Like Afghan transit trade, there are 300,000 Afghans who cross every month into Pakistan for work and then go back. We give them treatment for medicine and medical in Quetta and Peshawar. Most of the Afghan women are treated there in case of emergency. And definitely there is investment that Pakistan has done. And then there are definitely relationships at military intelligence level as well. So all kind of pressure was put, and I'm sure some friends from Middle East also advised them. So that has started working. But as far as their splinter groups are concerned, I think, suppose they've already crossed into Pakistan. That's why the Grand Jirga was held in Kila Wala Sar, and Chief addressed, the Ahmadiyyin. Our Ahmadiyyin are, I think, very mature and they understand. In case their houses or places are being used, misused, and they're getting safe haven, so it will not be tolerated. So I think environment has been built up. I feel that these are the remnants along the border who will probably keep striking. Now they are frustrated also in case they don't get safe haven in Afghanistan. I'm sure there'll be frustration. There's also infighting. If you've heard, there was fighting between, now TTP is broken out to, I think, 4 sections. So there's infighting and there was some killing of the leaders due to this infighting. So that's a good omen. But definitely Pakistan has to bear this cost, and the operations would continue. So I think it's a multi-dimensional strategy. But definitely Afghanistan government will have to cooperate with Pakistan.
Right, Brigadier Retired Waqar Hassan, senior analyst. Thank you very much for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Dr. Ellahi, when we talk about the role of media, the educational institutions, as well as religious scholars, is there any possibility all of them can collaborate in order to foster that very understanding and then inculcate among the general masses regarding tolerance and patience?
Absolutely. It is the only collaboration that is left for us as a sane option. Somehow media is the key. Digitalization, videography, cinematography, showing characters that are very close to our real life situations, so we may relate to it. Our conscious may relate. It may go deep within the subconscious as well, so we may become not psychopaths, rather sane human beings. And adding to what Dr. Alvi said, you asked earlier, it was very interesting example from the life of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Darul Nidwa, the house of Nidwa, gave death warrant against Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, under the leadership of Umar bin Hasham, known as Abu Jahl. And he was forced to go to Taif, and he was stoned there. And he was accompanied only by Zaid bin Harisa raziyallahu anh. And he was left with no option in the middle of 3 valleys: Hijaz, Makkah, Yasrib, Medina, and Taif. And he was standing in the middle of it. And Hazrat Shah Sahib also wrote in his book that this was the turning point of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He sent messages to the leaders of the Quraysh. And one leader who was not a Muslim, known as Mutim bin Adi, came to his help, gave him the shelter along with his 7 sons. And when the battle happened in Medina, known as the Badr, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, if Mutim bin Adi would have been alive today, I would have given all the war caps, everyone, in the name of what he did to me. So this is Aman. And I'm sorry, somehow there is no alternate. There is no translation of this word. This is highest level of forgiveness, Aman. If I have been tormented, saddened or lamented by something, I should not replicate the same. Media is the key. Media tells us how to forgive, how to forget, how to move ahead, what to be taught. For example, I've seen nations working on their nursery rhymes. They show characters. They have made characters of their different divine creatures. Not showing their faces or anything, but inculcating those messages in the subconscious of the...
Dr. Shaheer, unfortunately we're short of time. Thank you very much for taking time out for Views on News tonight. Really appreciate that. Dr. Shaheer, social scientist, joining us in the studio, and Professor Dr. Mustafeez Ahmad, religious scholar. Thank you very much for your time, also for being with us on the show tonight. With that, we come to the end of today's episode. Till the next one, take good care of yourselves.